From Fox 8 Studios in New Orleans, welcome into Overtime, the podcast for all things sports, all things Louisiana, and everything in between. Alongside Sean Fazende, I'm Chris Hagan, and today we are talking about a Saints win in Washington heading into the bye week. But before we get to all of that, a quick request and reminder, please subscribe to the podcast, also rate and review it, and tell your friends to help us spread the word. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on the Final Play app with the Final Word feature for your questions. Sean Fazende joins us from FedEx Field. And Sean, quite a tale of two halves today in Washington.
Yeah, kind of a roller coaster type game, really from the jump. Different style of win for the Saints, but that's the most important word right there, win. So they were able to come out of here with a 33-22 victory in a game where I'm not sure if you come away feeling like they played well, but they didn't, or played bad. It was a lot of both in this game. But in the end, they made enough plays to win the game and beat a team that they were better than. But a team that they were better than, that had they not made a few mistakes, maybe it would have been a little closer. Nonetheless, you add it all up. I mean, they're 3-2, and that's certainly much better. You kind of hear the players talk about it after. It's so much better, A, to go into a win, go into a bye week with a win, and B, 3-2 versus 2-3. I did the little analysis on it in the pregame show earlier today. 2-3 is not a good place for Sean Payton-led teams to be. So 3-2 is a good place to be into the bye week. And we'll see. I still don't know how good this team is. I think this game was probably a pretty indicative of the season so far. Some up, some down. But in the end, a few more pluses than minuses.
It's interesting because it was like a complete 180 from a week ago, where they were a little bit more conservative against the Giants and lost that game, whereas they couldn't really afford to be conservative. The defense did play well in Washington, but there were some times where Heineke was in a rhythm and they were really moving the ball well, and I think maybe that helped Sean Payton make up his mind that we're going to go and let Jameis turn it loose a little bit more. We saw him obviously take shots down the field, to the big one to Deontay Harris, a 72-yarder. Obviously the Hail Mary to Marquez Callaway, but not as many rushes for Alvin Kamara, but certainly they made up for it with the production and the big plays, especially in the passing game.
Yeah, the red zone defense and the chunk plays offensively, and obviously Blake Gillikin were the reasons why they won this game. I asked Jameis about the chunk plays. He said, when you don't have the time of possession numbers, that's how you were able to offset it. It's exactly what the Giants did last week. When the Saints were controlling clock, running clock, controlling the line of scrimmage, they were able to bounce back or get back in that game with chunk plays. I thought that was the difference. I thought Winston had some really high moments. I thought he had some really low moments. Where do you come out on that? I don't know. I mean, you just got to live with that. You got to live with that, especially in a style of game like this. And at the end, he made enough plays to win this game. Again, how much can you count on that formula with the way this group is currently constructed? I don't know, but I know today it was needed, and they were at least able to get enough done to get the win.
You talk about Winston and the highs and the lows. Obviously, it's not necessarily the recipe you want, like you said, to have those turnovers. But I do think with this defense, and again, not that you can bank on getting some of those turnovers back. The Saints defense had a couple takeaways today. I do think, though, that you might be better off just taking the handcuffs off of Jameis and letting him have the freedom to make some of those plays, because I think as he gets better, as Michael Thomas comes back, as Eric McCoy comes back, and hopefully Deontay Harris and Taysom Hill come back as well, you'll start to see an offense that functions how they envision it, and maybe they can afford to take a few more chances with some more reliable targets out there and not have to play this conservative style, knowing that your defense is probably good for one or two takeaways a game.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously happened here today. So maybe this is the turning of the corner, if you will. I mean, only Sean Payton knows where he truly stands right now with how much he trusts Jameis Winston. I know Deuce and I were talking after the game. He kind of felt like there's still a few issues there, just in terms of where they can go, how much they can completely cut it loose right now. It's not at 100% yet. It'll probably get there at some point, depending on how the outcome of games go and how the flow of games go. But for this situation where you didn't win time of possession. You didn't convert a whole lot of third downs. You didn't rush the ball with any great numbers until the very end when the game was already over. In this situation, when they had to do it, they got a little lucky, let's be honest, with the Hail Mary, but still, they were able to make enough plays to win in that fashion. Again, the question is, can you do that on a consistent basis? Will it even have to? I guess we'll find out.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Obviously, when you look at the numbers, not the most efficient, 15 of 30 for Jameis Winston. Still a bit all over the place in terms of what you can expect from wide receiver production. Marquez Callaway, though, with that Hail Mary, had himself a good game. Hate to see Deontay Harris go down because, once again, it feels like he is really a go-to target for Jameis Winston that can be relied upon going forward. And good things they had Kenny Stills available. But, again, I think some of this gets alleviated certainly when Michael Thomas is able to return.
Yeah, I agree. Losing Taysom was big as well because he does so much for you as well. Sean Payton talked about how you have to adjust like that when you lose a guy like that, and obviously Deontay as well. I think it hurt in the return game too because there was some iffy moments in the return game. Alvin took a couple shots in the return game you probably don't want to see. So, again, you're getting healthier and probably stronger, but you're also doing so as your schedule is getting stronger. I look at the first 5 games. Obviously, Green Bay is a contender. Not sure what to make of Green Bay. I mean, I'm not sure what to make of Carolina. Not sure. I don't think New England. I don't think the team today. I don't think New York are contenders. So you're 3-2 and you manage, but you also manage probably the more favorable part of your schedule. So we'll see when you shift into this new phase once you get back from the bye. So we'll see. But it is a matter of getting healthy, and it is a matter of just finding out who you are.
Defensively, a bit of a bounce-back game. There were some big plays Washington had, but for the most part, they made them work for everything. Taylor Heineke, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. This is the unit that I think we expect to see, giving up just 22 points on the road to a Washington team that could be explosive. They held Terry McLaurin in check, and a lot of that goes to Marshawn Lattimore, who talked about after the game. He feels better when he can travel with the receiver. I think so, given what we've seen from Lattimore in the past, where kind of falling asleep on Saquon Barkley for the explosive a week ago, and then at times just seemingly losing focus and allowing a big play. That doesn't happen when you've got a guy across from you. I also think, like Lattimore mentioned, it kind of helps that it was Terry McLaurin, somebody he played with at Ohio State. But this was one of those games where Lattimore looked like he's worth every bit, maybe more of that, nearly $20 million a year contract.
Thought it was phenomenal. A couple PBUs, had a 4th down PBU, which I was surprised Washington went for it at that point. Like I said, I think they were in field goal range at that point. I thought he was phenomenal today. I thought the defense as a whole, it was not their best game completely. It was their best game when it came to red zone defense, given how much they were down in there and how little, I should say, Washington came away with points. There was a part, third quarter, Saints offense was struggling. They had that long 7.5-minute drive. Got inside the 10, got inside the 5, and had to kick a field goal, made it 20-16 instead of getting 7. That's a long way to go to only get 3 points. So the Saints bent. They did not break defensively, and they made some plays when they had to. That Paulson Debo interception was huge. That was another drive where really Washington was rolling at that point. Kind of felt like they had a lot of momentum at that point. And then it was kind of a weird throw from Heineke where P.J. Williams was able to intercept. So I thought defensively, they were not dominant, but they rose to the occasion when they had to. And honestly, in today's NFL, that's what you can realistically expect. That's what you can fall back on, because I just don't think you can be dominant every single week in today's NFL.
And last thing, looking at special teams, Sean Payton said it. Blake Gillikin, the punter, got a game ball. He had a tremendous game. I think we can all agree that Will Lutz can't get back fast enough. Cody Parkey missing an extra point, just obviously not what you want long term if you're the Saints. But this was one of those games where you consider the turnovers the offense had that they were able to weather because of the defense's takeaways and then what Blake Gillikin was able to do in special teams. This is a complimentary win, and it's kind of getting back to whether the numbers look like they might have in years past or not. This team under Sean Payton, because of the emphasis they put on special teams and because of the way that they've built up the defense, does a great job of playing complementary football, and that's that's their path to victory, as we always say.
Yeah. Complimentary in terms of the positive, but also it was a little indicative of the hot and cold nature, because you had phenomenal punting, which he was arguably the MVP of the game. Blake Gillikin. I mean, that 60-yarder, 3 punts pinned inside the 5. Plus, he had to kick one out of his own end zone that flipped the field as well. But you talk about a kicker that missed 2 extra points. I mean, the hot and cold nature of that in a game that could have been close, he is not going to be back once the Saints come back from the bye. Even if Lutz is not ready, they're going to get another kicker. It's just that's going to happen. But when this gets tougher, this schedule, and you get to the meat of the schedule, which is coming, you're going to need those points. Those points, that 3 points, 1 point here, 2 points, whatever case may be, the extra points and the field goals, you're going to need it. So you can't rely on a kicker other than Will Lutz right now. So Will Lutz has to get back. But Blake Gillikin, my goodness, what a find he has been. I mean, some would say that's a little bit of a gamble to get rid of a mainstay like Morstead, but they clearly made the right choice.
I think if you would have told me that they would have the injuries they did, no Michael Thomas, the David Onyemata suspension, Will Lutz out, you lose Eric McCoy, you lose Teron Armstead. If you told me that they were going to be 3-2 after these first 5 weeks, I'd probably take it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be able to pick which 3 games they would have won because it's probably not the 3 I would have thought. But I know at one point we were saying they needed to be 4-1, but 3-2 considering the injuries and then what you have going forward, I think is a good place to be in for this team.
Yeah, I think 3-2 is a good spot. I think looking at it, even before injuries, you thought this was the part where you could, if you're 3-2, 4-1 at the break, you'd feel good about yourself. So, look, like I said before, I don't know if this is a contender. I don't even know if this is a playoff team. I do know they've now won in a couple different ways. They are getting healthier, so there are reasons for optimism. But this is the NFL. Got to play this thing out and just go along for this journey because it's one of those things where I truly believe the Saints are capable of beating anyone, but I also think they're capable of losing to anyone in the NFL.
And that is a bit scary because it kind of makes it a week-by-week basis for this team. We know they've got Seattle after the bye week, no Russell Wilson there, so we will see how things are looking once we get on the other side of week 6. For now, that's going to do it for us, but before you go, a quick request and reminder, please subscribe to the podcast. Also, rate and review it and tell your friends to help us spread the word. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on the Final Play app with the Final Word feature. For now, that's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you next time on Overtime.